up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie. And together, we're Dice and Dragons.
She stole it from me, ladies and gentlemen.
Just
had to get that one in, didn't you?
Yep.
In any case, today we are going to be reviewing Aeon's End by Kevin Riley, the designer, and published by Indie Boards and Cards and Action Phase Games. Now, since recently the Kickstarter for Aeon's End New Age has just finished up, and we reviewed Aeon's End Legacy, and for those of you that saw that video, you know that we have enjoyed the system. We decided to pick up the original game and start at the beginning. With that being said, I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
So it's a cooperative game that can be played solo or in teams, so 1 to 4 players. It's for ages 14 and above, and it plays in about 60 minutes.
Yeah, it can go a little long if you are on the defensive, but 60 to 90 minutes, well, 60 minutes is probably about that right point. Longest plays, I would say, go up to about that 90-minute mark. And what do you think about the age, the 14 and above?
It could probably be a little bit younger. I don't think the content is that mature. It's just, you know, as
the strategy,
the strategy, I was going to say, the strategy is a little bit more complex. I wouldn't suggest that a bunch of 12-year-olds could play, but a 12-year-old could probably join adults playing this.
Now, just to tell you about the game, for those of you who may have not seen our Aeon's End Legacy video, now, what you're going to be doing in Aeon's End? Well, it is a cooperative deck building game. You're going to be fighting the Nemesis, which is the big bad. They have a deck of cards. They will be attacking our heroes, your breach mages, with minions as well as special abilities. You have a breach mage, and there are 4 breaches that you're able to open up as you play the game. Different mages start with different breaches open. You're going to be casting spells, damaging the Nemesis, defeating the minions, surviving the attacks, and defending the city of Gravehold. Did I miss anything?
Don't think so.
Now, what is the next step? Since you wanted to, control this review for a change.
We're gonna grab our drinks.
Grab our drinks.
That's your line.
Oh, okay, I'm still doing it. Grab our best friend.
And after I'm done slurping, we're going to take it to the table.
Now, we will be doing a full how to play because there are some differences between Legacy and the way it introduces mechanics and what you get with Aeon's End. Now we're going to take a quick look at some of the components from Aeon's End 2nd edition. There are just too many different cards for me to showcase everything, so I picked out some key components and the starting market so that you guys get a good example as to what comes in the box. Now, what we're going to take a quick look at is some of the stuff that is not included on camera. So we just have a nice, quick reference sheet for your first game. It'll help you set it all up. And of course, there is the rule book. Now, if you're wondering why I can't showcase everything, if you take a look just on page 3, you will see there are 87 gems, 86 spell cards, 30 relic cards, 27 randomizer cards. So just a little too difficult to get all of that out on camera. Now what we're going to do is we will start by taking a look at your enemies, the Nemesis. Now let's take a look at the 4 Nemesis that are included in the base game. You have the Rageborn, Carapace Queen. You also have this Husk track for the Carapace Queen, Crooked Mask, and the Prince of Gluttons. Now each of these cards has 2 sides. The top side here will give you the setup instructions as well as the flavor text as to why you're fighting that Nemesis. Now below the Nemesis you can see the tokens. Now these tokens are double-sided. They're going to be used for Carapace Queen and as well as the Rageborn. Now here we've got just the set of basic cards, and these weren't quite put properly. So you can see they're divided into different levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3 basic cards. So you can see there's a lot of them. I still need to get these all nicely sorted, but it gives you an idea as to what they are. Now, when you're looking at this one, for example, the Pulverizing Way, you'll notice Power 1. These are the power tokens that you're going to use to count down when those abilities are going to be set off. Now here, we have the different Nemesis cards for your individual Nemesis. These are going to be added into the basic deck here, but there are some ones that are specific. For example, this one makes up the Rageborn strike deck. These cards, they're marked strike, and they'll have the 0 number there telling you that they're not mixed in with the standard basic cards. Other than that, you've got level 1, level 2, and level 3 cards. Same goes for all of the other Nemesis. If you're looking at Carapace Queen, so you can see, same thing here, with the division between minions, attacks, and powers. That's pretty much the way all the decks are divided, unless they're special cards. Now, the Crooked Mask has Corruption. You'll see there's a fairly large amount of these cards. Other than that, same as all the other ones. And then lastly, we have the Prince of Gluttons, where a lot more minions than powers and attacks. And there you have it. Those are the Nemesis cards. Now let's take a look at how you're going to track the Nemesis with the damage tracker right here. As you can see, the Rageborn has 70 health. When you deal a damage, you just adjust it. Here is where we keep track of the health of the City of Gravehold. Always starts at 30. And you're going to be doing that in the same fashion as you're going to be tracking the Nemesis. Now, we're going to move on to the players. And the base game includes 8 different Breach Mages. We've got Brahma, Mist, Jian, Adelheim, Kadir, Nim, Lash, and Zaxos. You'll notice that there is some flavor text giving you some history about these characters on the back of their player boards. You have a place to mark the player number, their life, which will always be 10, what their starting hand is, what their starting deck is. You'll notice a place for the deck and the discard. So you'll set up your deck as is and take your starting hand. You notice here is their special ability. Brahmins is known as Brink Siphon, and the amount of charges that you need to purchase for 2 Aether. Don't worry, talk about that and how to play. Here you can see the charge tokens and the player number tokens, as well as the life tokens. So charge stuff up, use your special ability. Up top here, you've got the spaces for the breaches. Now, I did not put the breaches on camera because it just would have taken up too much room. So let's take a look at the breaches. Now, as you notice, there is enough for all of your different Breach Mages. And not all of them, sorry, I mean each of the players, because there'll be 4 players, so there is enough for 4 mages. Now, what you'll see here is you've got your number 1 breach, which typically for most characters starts as opened. Then you'll just see the numbers of the breaches on the back, level 2, level 4, and level 3. So just have that slightly out of order. You're going to place it 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you'll notice that when 4 and 3 are opened, they give you +1 damage on cast. Pretty cool. So this is what you're going to need. And you'll notice to open these breaches, the instructions are right here. Don't worry, we'll take a look at that in the how to play. Now, each player does have their own specific starting card. So for example, Zaxos gets Flare. You can tell by the character art, it's also written as starting in their starting hand. And there are 8 of these different cards, 1 for each of the different Breach Mages. Now the rest of your starting deck and hand are going to be made up of these regular standard crystals and the sparks that you can see here. Now, we have a nice player reference card, Nemesis turn order, and the player turn order. I almost said torn, sorry about that. Then we've got the turn order deck, which consists of players 1 through 4. Just have it a little bit out of order because these are always going to be shuffled. As you saw, there are also 2 Nemesis cards, and then when you flip over the card, it's going to tell you who acted. Don't worry, there are some more cards when you're playing with only 1, 2, or 3 players that you'll be using. Now, here we've got an example of the starting market. Now, what we have out here is the 3 gems you're going to be starting with. Normally, these are piled high. There's not just one of them, but as you can see, you can acquire these. They're going to go at the top of your discard, so keep that in mind. Real advantageous thing is in this game, you do not shuffle your deck. So pay attention as to when you acquire cards, where you're going to be placing them, because as you acquire them, you're able to place them into your discard in any order. Don't worry, we'll look at that in the how to play. We've got gems, we've got relics. We also then have the spells. So each of them do different things. These gems will let you purchase more cards. Relics will typically give you special abilities, maybe helping you charge your special ability, as well as some other things that they can do. And then you've got your spells, which typically deal damage to minions and the nameless. Now, the other thing that I just don't have on camera because it doesn't fit quite well are the randomizers. So as you can see, we've got randomizers for the spells and gems you see out, as well as some new ones. Now, when you're making your deck, you can shuffle up the different randomizers. As you can see, you're always going to have 3 gems, 2 relics, 4 spells, and then create a random starting marketplace. And there you have it. There's a nice snippet of the components that we have for Aeon's End 2nd edition. So now what I'm going to do is clean this up and teach you guys quickly how to play the game. Now we're going to teach you how to set up Aeon's End 2nd edition. And just so that you note, this is based on the setup for the first game. We are using the Breach Mages Brahma and Jian. This is only going to be a 2-player game, and we are using the starting marketplace as suggested. Now, I'm going to move that aside, and let's talk about how we set up the game. We determine who is the first and the second player. We have our player turn and nemesis turn reference card here. What we've done is we've opened the breaches as described by the player's mage board. And then what we've done here is we have set the closed breaches in the positions as they are noted on the board. We've just taken out all the cards that were required for the starting deck. We have started the setup for the Rageborn, and I'll flip this over just to go through some more of the rules. So we have a starting health at 70, Gravehold starts at 30 health. I've got some Rageborn tokens, power tokens, charge tokens, extra life tokens, everything we're going to need to get into the game. Now, what we're then going to need to do is set up the turn order deck. The way we do that is we take the player 1 and player 2 cards, we shuffle them in with the nemesis cards to create the turn order deck. So we'll just get this a little mixed up, and now we're good to go in that respect. And in order to set up the nemesis, now you're not going to be doing this on your first game, but as we've played it, we need to do it. What you're going to do is take a look at the basic nemesis cards added. We are in the 2-player slot. So in this case, we're going to take 3 tier 1 cards, 5 tier 2 cards, and 7 tier 3 cards. Now, we've got our tier 1 basic nemesis cards here. So we're going to just shuffle them up, and we're going to do all this stuff face down, not spoiling any surprises. And we're going to deal out 3 of these guys right here. Take the rest, return them to the game box. What I'm then going to do is take our nice Rageborn cards here. I'm going to take all the level 1 Rageborn cards, not the strikes. Just going to put these back at the top here. And we're going to shuffle these together. And this is going to make up the top of the Rageborn deck. So we'll put these, I don't want to reveal what they are, but ideally you want to have them face up, or at least put them in a pile that you know which is which. Now we get to the tier 2 cards, shuffle these bad boys up, and we're going to deal out 5 of them. So we get these 5 cards here. These go back to the game box. We're now taking a look at the Rageborn cards, all the level 2 cards, then get mixed in with the other ones. What we'll then do is take the level 1s, so we don't make any mistakes, stack them on top of the level 2s. Almost done our Nemesis deck. Now we're going to take a look at the tier 3 cards, and we're going to grab 7 of them. So there's always going to be 7. Got plenty more than that. We've got our 7. Let's go back to the game box. And then we're going to mix in. There's not much from the Rage one, as you can see, these 2. And you're going to place them like so. And we're going to place them right here next to the Nemesis. Now, the one thing you're going to notice here is that there's additional setup instructions. So we also need the strike deck. So we're going to take these, shuffle up the strikes, and you know what, I'll slide this down. We're going to place the strike deck up here. I'll probably just have the discards for these off camera just to make a little more room. And as we actually need our spaces for our deck and discard, I'm also going to move the turn order deck and the player turn card here. Now, what we didn't cover with our heroes was how we set up their decks. So we've got Brahma right here, and their starting deck is 3 crystals, 2 sparks. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. Just place that face down. Their starting hand is Berry Light and 4 crystals. And to keep this simple, I'm just going to stack this face up on top of them. Now, with regards to Jian, her starting deck is 3 crystals, 2 sparks, which we'll place here. And we then have her starting hand, which is going to go here. And I'll also place face up on top of her character. And there you have it. We have now set up Aeon's End 2nd Edition, and we're going to get into our how to play. So keep it right here, and we'll be right back to teach you the game. Now we're going to teach you how to play Aeon's End 2nd Edition. And the best way, I believe, to do that is going to be just to play the game. Now, what we'll do is go through 2 full turns of the turn order deck. And if there is anything that does not get covered, such as using your special ability, we will go over that in a 3rd section of the video. Now, let's go ahead and flip over the top card of the turn order deck and see who starts. In this case, it is player 2, Jian. Now what I'm going to do is just take this stuff, well, not stuff, the card, place it off camera. I'll keep it there in order, and it's just going to keep us with a nice little clean play space for the Nemesis cards. Now, on Jian's turn, we're going to have to go through the casting phase, and we don't have any prep spells, meaning we cannot cast. Now, during the main phase, you may resolve the following actions in any order as many times as you want. Play a gem or relic card, gain a charge, focus a breach, open a breach, prep a spell, resolve a wild prepped effect, and a resolve to discard effect. Then you go into the draw phase. Now, we're not going to go over all of that in this turn, but let's do what Jian can do. As she starts with 2 sparks, we are going to prep 2 cards to her open breaches. Now, we're going to play our cards, and as you can see, we gain 1, 2, 3 Aether. Actually, it becomes 4 because we gain an additional 1 that can only be used for a gem, meaning we're going to pick up this diamond cluster, and when you acquire a card, it is the first thing that goes into your discard pile. Now, the cards that you have played, you may place them into your discard pile in any order. Obviously, I want to get the Moonstone Shard quicker than the 2 regular crystals. We place the crystals. We go into the draw phase. As there are only 5 cards in my deck, just flip them over, and that'll make up my starting hand for my next turn. Now let's flip over the turn order deck and see whose turn it is. Number 1, meaning it is now Brahma's turn. Just like Jian, there's nothing to cast. She is going to play a card to the open breach. However, she has 4 crystals, meaning we can actually purchase a different kind of card. In this case, we're going to get the Focusing Orb, which is a relic, as it may be used to heal Gravehold or focus a player's breach. And that's something that you can do on top of purchasing your own breach. Sorry, this was slightly out of position. Brahma's breach is supposed to be in the down position when we start the game. Now, what I'm going to do is draw the 5 cards. These are my 5 starting cards. And I'm just going to place them there on top of my player board as that has resolved their turn. Now, who knows whose turn it's going to be? It might be the Nemesis. Flip it over, and what do you know? Jian gets to go again. This time during the casting phase, we do have to cast our spells. Now, we're not required to shoot them off. The only way you're required to do it is if they are on a closed breach. Now, you're probably wondering, how the heck do you play a spell to a closed breach? Well, We're going to find out shortly. In any case, we cast our 2 spells, taking us down to 68 on our Nemesis. And it is now Gian's turn. And what do we want to do? Well, once again, we're going to prep our 2 sparks. But we only have 3 crystals this time. Not much that we can do. Now, we can choose to play the cards. We can even play a card, and essentially, even if we're not able to use it, or we can discard cards that we don't want. So, for example, if I did not want to play this spark, sorry, that probably shot that off camera. For example, I could just discard it at the end of the turn in order to keep cycling through my deck. Now, you'll notice right down here is that her special ability only requires 4 charges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the 2 gems, put them right into her pile, and I'm going to gain a charge because that's what I'd like to do. It might have been smarter to get a Wristwood Amber or buy a Spectral Echo, but we're trying to teach you how to play the game, so buying a charge is what I wanted to showcase. And please know you can only buy a charge 1 time, I believe. No, I mean, that's incorrect. Sorry, I'm used to playing Legacy. You can spend as many Aether as you want on charges, meaning if you've got 8 Aether, you can fully prep and cast spells. Now, we've got our deck. We flip it over, we draw the top 5 cards. As you'll notice, the diamond cluster is at the top. Place that there, and those go back to form our deck. Now we need to reveal a card, and it is the Nemesis turn. We draw the top Nemesis card, and we resolve it. As this is an attack, we're going to just follow out what is written on the card. It will not stay in play. Now it does Unleash. We follow the Rageborn's instruction for Unleash, meaning he gains a Fury token, and Gravehold will then suffer 3 damage. This card will also get discarded, which I will place not far from the turn order deck cards off camera. Gravehold takes a hit and is now down to 27 health. We once again flip over the turn order deck, and it is Grandma's turn, meaning we're going to end the Nemesis. Now, it is the casting phase. Brahma's going to cast Buried Light as it's going to give her an extra Aether. We're going to knock down the Rageborn by another hit, and then we can take a look and see what we have. Well, we've got 2 sparks, 3 crystals, a total of 4. So what we're going to do this time, and the reason why it's 4, don't forget I gained an Aether, we're going to focus the breach, meaning we can play a spell to the focus breach. Now, don't forget, this must be cast during the next casting phase, as this breach is not fully opened. We're going to play our spark, and to focus a breach, that costs us 2. Just going to place these down here to symbolize that they're played. Don't forget, we've got an extra Aether, so we're going to purchase a Jade, place it here, put the cards back in the order that we'd like. We're now going to the draw phase, so we're going to flip over the deck, draw the top 5 cards. As you can see, we got the breach focusing crystal there, well, the focusing orb. Place our deck back down, and then we're going to reveal the last card, which is the Nemesis that is striking at us. We then reveal the top Nemesis card, and it's a power. Power 3. The player with the most prep spells suffers 2 damage for each of their prep spells. Oof. That can be very damaging. We'll place 3 power on there. I'll just move that one there. Now, what will happen is this is essentially going to count down, meaning after the Nemesis goes 3 times, this ability is going to go off. Meaning, ideally, we won't have any prep spells out there, or if they are, they're the high damaging ones before the Nemesis hits us. Now, we've gone through 1 full play of the turn order deck. We're able to show you guys how to play a gem or a relic card. We haven't gone to relics yet. We're going to get to that soon. We've gone over gain a card, gain a charge, focus the breach. We have not fully opened the breach. We've prepped the spell, and we have not resolved the well-prepped effect because I don't believe we actually have any. Well, we do have it with the Wildfire Whip, so if we don't get to it, I'll do it in a nice little aside. In any case, what we're going to do right now, we're going to cut, and this will be part 1 of the how to play, and we're going to come back at you with part 2. And we're coming back at you with part 2. I'm going to just move that back down. We're going to take the turn order deck. As you can see, I left it in the order that it was in. We once again shuffle it up, never knowing who is going to start. I think that's a nice mix. And then we reveal the top card, which is the Nemesis. Now what happens is we're going to be placing another Nemesis card. And we also need to resolve the current card. Now, I'm going to discard this. So in this one, it's Cleave the Rageborn Strikes. It's very simple. We are going to resolve the card from his strike deck. In this case, it's any player suffers 4 damage. Ouch. Now, the strike deck has its own discard. When you are out of strikes, you're going to need to reshuffle them. So I will be placing this off camera, but in a separate pile from the other ones. And in the case of this one, Brahma will take the damage. So we take 4 damage. I'll place these tokens in the life pile over here. And we also have to remove 1 power from the bleed static as it's getting closer to being unleashed. And that is the Nemesis' turn. We're now going to reveal the next player, which is number 1. It is Brahma. Now, we must cast this Spark. I may or may not cast this one. I could leave it in play if I'm waiting for a minion. But for the moment, not all that worried about it. I will cast a spell, dealing 2 damage to the Rageborn. We then have 4 crystals and the Focusing Orb. Now in this case, you may focus any player's breach, which is awesome because I wanted to go over opening a breach, meaning we're going to focus our 2 breach. We're going to spend 2 crystals as well to open our 2 breach. Once the breach is at this position with the yellow light glowing at the top, we're able to then flip the breach open. It is now open, and we're able to place spells on it at any time. In this case, what I'm going to want to do is buy some Jade. We're going to place the cards back in the order that I played them. I want to get that Focusing Orb and place that there. So they keep knocking this stuff around, trying to give you the best close-up that I can, but that means cards are a little close together. So that resolves Brahma's turn. We're going to flip over the turn order deck, and it is player 2. Jan will go. Jan will cast both of her spells, dealing another 2 damage to the Rageborn. We now have 1 spark, which I'll prep to my open breach. We also have 2, 3, 4, a total of 5 Aether, or an additional Aether to gain a gem. Now I'd like to get something like Wildfire Whip, and this just goes to show you how things can be used very well to work together. Now we've got 2. We've got to use this as a 3rd to buy the Vrisswood Amber, which may go on the top of our deck because that's its special ability. I can then use these 2, as you can see right here, 1, 2, and I get an additional 1 for an orb. Not an orb, a gem, meaning I can buy a 2nd Vrisswood Amber, getting it on the top of my deck. I'll then discard the Moonstone. Well, how do I want to do? Yeah, Moonstone, Diamond Cluster, doesn't really matter. They're coming up pretty much quickly. And then the 2 crystals. I'll then go into the draw phase. We sell 1 card here. But as you can see, I now am in the good position to buy one of the larger spells. All right, let's reveal the next turn order card. It is player 2. Now, Jian just goes right again. Now, in this case, we want to buy Wildfire Whip. So we're going to spend, we're going to cast during the casting phase, dealing 1 damage. So you know what? I'm not going to cast Change of Plans because I want to get to the Wildfire Whip a little quicker. So having this out is not necessarily a bad thing. We're not worrying about the bleed static just yet. So first thing I'm going to do, we're going to spend all 6 of this to get Wildfire Whip. Going to prep another spark, and we're going to put this back in the order by choosing. We then flip the deck over. Now as we've got a deck and a discard, we draw our first card, and then we draw the top 4 from our deck. Place this back, and we are good to go. Now let's reveal whose turn it is. It is player 1. You're going to Brahma's turn, so you've seen how we acquire a card. And I neglected to draw our starting hand. And as you can see, we've got the Buried Light, which I will cast, and then we have a total of 5. Now, it's really important to start gaining charges, especially when you can give allies charges as well. So we're going to buy the relic. We're going to place the cards back in any order we choose. We will flip over the deck and draw the top 5 cards. Not a bad setup. Place these back there. And that's the end of Brahma's turn. Now we're going to reveal the last card, which is the Nemesis. Now we'd once again count down the power tokens. We're also going to reveal the top card. And we actually have some enemies. Now you'll notice that this has a persistent effect. And what this happens is Gravehold suffers damage equal to the number of Fury tokens the Rageborn has. Meaning the next time that the Nemesis turn happens, we trigger the card. The way that it actually works is you trigger the leftmost card first, and then you have drawn the new one. This one will only trigger on the following Nemesis turn. If you want any clarifications, you've got the Nemesis turn cards right here. Now, explains what happens when the deck is exhausted. When exhausted, this is for players. So this talks about what happens when you die, and the Nemesis main phase and the draw phase are listed right here. So we've covered 2 turns of the game. I think you have an idea as to what you're doing, how you're building your deck, how you're going to play. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back. I'm going to take a look at the few rules that we did not get to, and I'll also show you how to attack that minion. So keep it right here, and we'll be right back. All right, we're now going to cover the few things that we did not get a chance to cover during our first 2 turns of how to play. So just imagine in this fake scenario, things have advanced a little bit. We somehow got another bleed static out there, and let's take a look at whose turn it is. Well, we're going to flip over the turn order deck, and what do you know? It is Jian's turn. And, all right, we've got plenty of buying power, enough to buy some new spells and buy a charge, as we want to do some serious damage. So we're going to buy this charge, and that's going to cost us 2. Just going to put them down like we played them. We have another 5. We'll purchase the spell, the Essence Theft, adding that to our deck. We're going to play everything back the way we wanted it. Now, we're in a really good place here. We've played all our cards. We got the Wildfire Whip out, and we can actually do a heck of a lot of damage to this Provoker. Now, before we kick butt on the Provoker, I just want to give you guys a quick example. Let's say we had started with, I got this 2 right here. Let's say we'd actually started with the Nemesis turn. Well, with regards to the Provoker, with its persistent effect, as you can see, Gravehold suffers damage equal to the number of Fury tokens. In this case, he's got 4. It's not quite possible. Actually, he should technically only be able to have 3, but I placed 4 out there just to make things more dramatic. The 4th would only get added at the start of his turn, meaning at this point, Gravehold would actually suffer 4 damage. Going down to 23, meaning we're fairly lucky that it was not the Provoker's turn. That's how the persistent effect would work. We'd also draw another card, resolve this card on top of what that says. We get the Unleash, we'd go through that stuff. Don't worry when I get there in a second, it's just that I'm going to actually kill the Provoker. I wanted to just showcase what a persistent effect is. All right, So it's still Jian's turn. We've put all our cards back. There's definitely stuff that we can do. Well, we can do a ton of damage. And as you can see here, we have a while prepped effect. So while prepped during your main phase, you may spend 2 to cast any player's prep spell. Well, you know what? We're not going to do that. Brahma's got it out. We'll potentially do something like that with Brahma. So let's see what we can do. Well, we've got Black Mirror, so we may activate this during our main phase. Actually, you know what? I didn't do that right. I apologize. I'm actually going to put the Essence Theft back and take a Spectral Echo instead. I really want to showcase the Wildfire Whip thing with Jian because that's how we're going to deal the most damage. Now, take a look. We also have... you know what? I'm teaching you guys stuff, and I was forgetting about the Provoker. This was set up, so during your turn, I held on to the Spark. The Spark should have been cast to really showcase the level of damage that I want. And the Provoker should only be at 4 health. So, sorry about that. I know I'm walking things back a little bit. And there we go. We're good to go. All right. So Jian still has 2 Aether left to trigger on the Wildfire Whip. We'd hit the Provoker at the start of the turn, and we'd added a Spectral Echo to our hand. Well, check this out. So cast any player's prep spell without discarding it, then cast that prep spell again. Discard it afterwards. Now take a look at this. We can take 4 charges right here. We can cast the Wildfire Whip twice, which is pretty cool. And we can deal 4 damage to the Provoker, killing it, getting it into the discard pile. We could then also cast it again directly at the Rageborn, hitting him for 4 damage, which in this scenario would knock him down to 59 health. Then we do have to discard the card. Now, in this hypothetical situation, and discarding would put it there, let's say Brahma had another card out, like the Essence Theft. As we have our Wildfire Whip out and we still had 2 Aether, we could spend that to cast it as well during our turn and deal another 3 damage. So as you can see, chaining abilities, spells, prep spell effects together is how you're going to be able to deal massive damage to enemies. So that covers what we didn't take a look at, which is Resolve a Well Prepped effect and a special ability. You notice that all the special abilities will tell you when you may activate it. So that was Jian's turn. A little messy, but you guys got the gist of what we're doing. Now let's go on to the Nemesis turn. In this case, we draw another Nemesis card. It is Unleash. And if there are 2 Nemesis turn order cards in the turn order discard pile, unleash 2 additional times. As at this point, as you can see right here, there would only be 1 card left, meaning this would have made it into the discard pile. Don't forget there's only 2 of them. That means he's unleashing 3 times. Don't quite have enough tokens right here, but you'll get the gist of it. In any case, I'll just make sure to place another one back. So we've got all these tokens. Just imagine this power token is a rage token for right now. We also set off the bleed static, the power 3, which gets discarded, meaning Jian takes 2 damage. She's not doing so hot. We're going to move this, and we're going to follow the additional rules for the Rageborn. So when the Rageborn strikes, we will all the following in order. Draw a card from the strike deck, resolve it, shuffle that card back into the strike deck, and the Rageborn loses 3 Fury tokens. So I actually made a mistake when the Rageborn strikes. I was discarding it. This was actually, any player suffers 4 damage, was supposed to have gotten shuffled back into the deck. I'll add a pop-up to that during the how to play. So everything's been shuffled, but as you can see, that's what happens. And then at the end of the Nemesis turn, if the Rageborn has 4 or more Fury tokens, it strikes once. In this case, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, meaning it's going to strike. We reveal it. Gravehold suffers 3 damage, and any player suffers 1 damage. So Gravehold will take a whack, going down to 24. And in this case, we're going to imagine that this says any player would suffer 2 damage. And Jian, for whatever reason, Brahma can't do it. Jian takes the hit. Boom. Jian is now exhausted. What happens when a mage becomes exhausted? Well, first and foremost, it strikes once. The Rageborn will lose his three of his Fury tokens. So we'll just get rid of that temporary one, meaning heck. He's got a lot of stuff he's going to strike again, but we're not focused on that. So what happens is then the Rageborn unleashes twice when someone becomes exhausted, getting a ton of tokens. Like I said, pay no attention to that. The amount's not necessarily accurate. We have to destroy one of the breaches, meaning poof, can't use it anymore. We discard all of our charge tokens. Luckily, we use them. And deal any excess damage to Gravehold times 2. So if this had said something like suffers 3 damage, that would have meant that we had 2. Gravehold would have actually suffered excess damage, like 2 damage like that. So getting exhausted is very dangerous. Now, your player is still in the game, just severely weakened, and you cannot take any more damage, meaning all damage from now on is going to be directed at Brahma. All right, now just to showcase, this then gets shuffled back into the Rage deck, and who knows what's coming. Now flip over the last turn order card, which is Brahma. Now, what's pretty cool, we have the Mage's Talisman, which is a neat card. Not going to purchase anything. This was just to showcase you some of the other relics. She can gain a charge, and any ally can gain a charge. So as you can see, this is kind of key to building up your special abilities. And apologies for that being a little messy as I corrected stuff just to show you the power of some of the abilities. You've got a good idea of how to play the game now. Julie and I are going to be back at you with our review of the game. So, Aeon's End, the 2nd edition. What did you think of the game?
Well, I enjoy the mechanics. It's very similar to I was going to call it Legacy. Is that what it was?
Well, it's Aeon's End Legacy.
Okay.
It just has less mechanics because you don't have the ability to silence. There are none of the
I enjoyed that.
Shields.
Yeah, and I appreciated that. I appreciated the fact that, so although Legacy was fun because it allowed you to build your own character, I like that one of the complaints I had is I thought it felt like a long time before I was able to power up my characters. These ones start out more, powerful as they are. They're their own characters. So I thought that made it a lot of fun because you start off being able to, have an impact from the beginning. So that I enjoyed a lot.
And it does make the game play a little differently, not having some of those mechanics that you have in Legacy, like silence. Means it's not exactly the same game. Very close. Mechanically it is, but I would say strategically you're playing a bit differently.
Yeah, you're definitely playing differently. And I think I felt like, wow, this is fun. This is going well. Until you jinxed us and said, oh, doesn't this feel easy? And I'm like, you had to say it, didn't you?
That wasn't a jinx. We just weren't taking advantage of some of the things that we should have been, like getting enough charges for our characters to really use our abilities.
I think there's probably different ways to do it. And, actually one of the things I noticed while we were setting up here and I was sitting here is that there's a gem that we haven't used that I thought, oh, that could have been cool because there's the Sifter's Pearl that we, could have used that we didn't end up using. I'm like, that might have been helpful.
Yeah, well, we played Aeon's End. We played it a few times, and the first time we fell just short, and we've been primarily playing with just the first recommended deck as we got a feel for this game, and also just getting back into the system because it's been a little while since we've picked up one of these games, and I would definitely want to get it back out to the table with some different mages and use the randomizer to, select our starting marketplace.
But I really don't have anything really negative to say about this game. It's not easy. It definitely...
No, it's just as challenging as Aeon's End Legacy. I don't think that there is a big gap in terms of difficulty, just play styles. That's not a gap, really.
Aeon, it roughly is an hour. The last time we played it, we won by beating the deck, by surviving the deck. And that's not necessarily my favorite way to win this game. It's the long way, the painful way to do it. As you called it, I think it's, you said playing it defensively. But we survived.
Yeah.
So we won.
And it's also, and it's the same thing with Aeon's End. You can get some bad luck. Oh, sorry, yes, it's the same in all types of Aeon's End game. You can get some bad luck. And we had a sequence of events that probably set us just a little bit more on terms of our heels than we would have liked. And I don't think we ever quite recovered our momentum because we had a couple of other things that we were able to stop from happening. But I really do enjoy a lot of the cards in this, like the diamonds. We're able to stack some incredible buying power, and it also helps. I think it helped me understand more the design philosophy of Aeon's End Legacy, where the idea of, hey, you got to spend Aether to buy off this power, because that was fairly difficult in Legacy, and I thought it was a lot easier to do in the original game. And the one thing I do want to highlight, the art, at least character-wise, is a lot better in the original Aeon's End compared to Legacy. I say the character art looked a little overly CG on Legacy. But other than that, the games play fairly similar. And I do love the fact that, hey, all of this content can be mixed in with Aeon's End Legacy. So you're getting a full game, an expansion, and that's one of probably my favorite part about this this whole thing. Now, normally we toss it back to me so that I would give my thoughts, but we've got had a nice little back and forth going.
Do you have any negatives to add? I mean, I basically only have positives to say about the game. There really isn't much negative for me with this. I mean, it is difficult. It's not an easy game, but it is winnable, definitely. And you just, you definitely have to be strategic.
I would say the negatives that I would see in the game, and this is just potential, so take it from where it's coming from, is how things can work with the randomizer. Like just seeing how well some of the cards that we add for our starting market work together. If you play the game completely random, you could really end up with a situation where you do not have a well-balanced marketplace. So keep that in mind, and you're trying to have fun with the game. If you want a big challenge, go ahead. Throw out all random cards, but if nothing works, it's not going to be that fun. And a positive that I wanted to highlight, because we really didn't talk about it, was the different characters and their different abilities. I felt that the characters, each of them feel very unique. Despite being breach mages, we've got a lot of mages in this, some of it from expansions that I picked up. So this is the entire first wave here of Aeon's End in this box. And it was really cool, like your mage Jian, her ability, and the way that she could use her ability with only 4 charges was really cool.
It allowed us to, get out of some tough situations.
Yes. But negatives, I don't have a lot of negatives because I really do enjoy the Aeon's End system overall. I would say that the only real, we talked about the randomizer. The other negative that I would say is, as you pointed out, it's really not that fun outlasting the deck. And it does get annoying if you kind of lose momentum at a certain point and you're not able to necessarily pick up the cards to recover, or you're starting to recover and then something bad comes out of the Nemesis deck and you're not able to defeat it.
I think it's part of the challenge as well, though. So it's
part of the challenge. I'm saying it's just not as much fun, and that's probably the main reason why I wouldn't be able to give the Aeon's End games like a 10. They're definitely going to score very high, probably everyone that we play, each one does bring something a little different to the table. But I don't think we'll ever get to that perfect 10. But who knows? I mean, we've got New Age coming. Maybe that's the one that is the best of
because
for
me, if we go to the rating here, for me, it's a very solid 8.
No, and I was going to say as well, this is definitely an 8 for me. I think Legacy we gave an 8.5, and the fact that we got to build our own mages was just fairly cool. And I really do like the individual aspects of each mage in this game, and I think you're getting a lot of variety. I'd love to take some of these mages and I even, mix and match, see what our own mages would do against the Rageborn, for example, and see how Brahma and Mist would fare against some of the the Nemesis that we faced in Legacy. But yeah, I think we're both on the same page here. Solid game. Really enjoy. If you like deck builders, and I know I didn't mention it when you're talking about the game, you do not shuffle your deck, and that is a key aspect of strategy. We were drawing some monster hands because of the way we thinned out our deck, and actually, big positive. I love the fact that there are more cards. It looks like to be able to destroy cards in this game than what we had in Legacy, because that was probably some of our worst plays in Legacy was when we just could not get rid of the crappy cards.
Well, we had a couple of different ways to do that, so
Yes.
that was good. So I think the other thing to mention, I mean, we've kept talking about the other version, so obviously there'll be a link to be able to refer back to our review.
Yeah, it'll be popping up down here sometime.
To see our past review.
You can also find our final thoughts on Aeon's End Legacy after we've completed the campaign.
Besides that, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know when we've got new content for you.
Yes, and don't forget to take a look down below in the video description for our social media feeds. You'll see some nice pictures on Instagram, some information on our Facebook page, and of course Twitter. We got to get those tweets out there into the internets.
Okay then. So on that note, we're going to grab our drinks.
Grabbing our drinks, grabbing our best friend.
We're going to keep playing games.
We're going to keep playing games. We're definitely going to keep playing Aeon's End.
Just maybe not today, but we'll play it.
Not today, but we've got War Eternal that's going to be coming. I don't think we'll break down each of the different expansions, but we'll definitely review each of the large sets before New Age.